Hello and welcome to Viewpoint on Ukraine today. Since the downing of a Russian jet by the Turkish Air Force, Moscow has started a diplomatic and trade war against Ankara. But what does this mean in reality, and how will this affect the already tense situation in the Black Sea region? To discuss this and more, we're joined by Turkey's Ambassador to Ukraine, Yönet Tezel. Welcome to Viewpoint.
Thank you.
With an already tense situation in trade between Russia and Turkey, how can Ukraine possibly take advantage of this indirectly?
Well, regardless of this crisis, there was always a great potential economically, commercially between Turkey and Ukraine. And both governments had been trying to tap this potential. So this new circumstance, under these new circumstances, I hear Ukrainian businesses in several sectors and government ready to tap that potential more, which of course we would only welcome. The trade between the two countries is unbelievably small. It's come down to about $6 billion. That's nothing for two big countries of the region. And our presidents had already agreed last year to triple that, in fact, by 2023. The way to do that is, of course, with more investments, more trade, more flights between the countries. So regardless of the Turkish-Russian issue that is now at hand, this was something we were trying to move. This was a direction both parties were trying to take. What
do Turkish investors usually look for in the Ukrainian market?
Well, they look for the same things all international investors look for. Certainly an investor-friendly climate is necessary. There's a lot of good news statements coming from the government over the last year, of course. We welcome that. We need to see, or rather Turkish investors, like other investors, need to see more on the ground happening. In some sectors, it's easier, and I've been encouraging Turkish investors to really look at opportunities here. Some of them have taken that step, have been successful, but others are hesitant. But I'm trying to encourage as much as possible that they look at the risks, and if there are reasonable risks, to take them, because we believe in the future of Ukraine, politically, economically, and even at this time, I think Turkey and Ukraine being so close, despite the difficulties, despite the fact that Ukraine is in the position of transition, so to say, and that transition isn't completed, it does allow for some businesses to move on, but still there's some distance to be taken, really. Businesses also complain to me of some of the practices or the malpractices that are still continuing from the past.
I understand. Now, you just said that Ukraine and Turkey are very close.
Yes.
Now, why do you think that is so?
We are, first of all, neighbors. I mean, we share, Black Sea is through the Black Sea we are neighbors. Historically, we have links. For hundreds of years, we've known each other. And these are two nations who, in the past, have had also negative relations. There have been many wars during the Ottoman times, but these two people have shown the maturity of not deriving animosity from the past, but friendship from the past. There are quite a few, an increasing number of Turkish-Ukrainian marriages. About 700,000 Ukrainians visit Turkey every year. On many international issues, we see eye to eye. Ukraine has opted to integrate with the EU, with Europe, with the EU. The same.
And Turkey is looking to join the EU.
Yes, we have already taken that strategic decision many years ago. So there's a lot of parallels in our approaches.
Now, speaking about the Black Sea region and the sanctions between Russia and Turkey, if Russia continues to tighten sanctions against Turkey, is Turkey ready to close the Bosphorus Strait, perhaps, for Russian ships which are on their way to the Middle East?
Now, Russia has made statements with regard to these measures they've taken after the downing of the jet. And this downing, of course, was not our fault at all. We are trying to look at it in a cool-headed way. We don't want to make hasty decisions. We'll look at what these statements transpire into in reality. we don't want to escalate the things. This wasn't something we wanted. We're not jubilating over it, and we don't want to escalate it.
And closing the Bosphorus Strait would be escalating
Now,
things.
the Bosphorus, those scenarios, I think, might sound interesting to the outside observer. However, there is a convention which regulates the passage of ships through the Bosphorus, through the Turkish Straits, and we've been implementing it very objectively and clearly throughout the years. So this is not something on the table. Rather, we are at the moment trying to look at what Russia is doing. We hope they don't go further with these with this overreaction, if I may say it. And I hope there will not be need for Turkey to take some measures. But whatever we decide, we want to keep our being on the high ground.
Is there a point where the Turkish government will intervene in the case of Crimean Tatars?
Turkish government is doing its best. One of my main portfolios in Kiev has been the Crimean Tatar issue. Of course, Crimea, we consider it a part of Ukraine. It's an issue for Ukraine first of all, but because of our support for Ukraine's territorial integrity, because of our historical links with Crimea, and very importantly, because our brethren, our kinsmen, the Crimean Tatars, have been there. It's their historic homeland. Of course, there is an extra sensitivity on our behalf. There are quite a few, maybe several millions of Turkish citizens of Crimean Tatar origin in Turkey. So it's very legitimate for us, for moral reasons, historical, cultural reasons, in addition to political reasons, for us to be interested. And we will try to make sure that Crimean Tatars live on their historic homeland in prosperity, in peace, in a democratic environment. Unfortunately, what's been happening in the last year, 2 years rather, isn't moving in that direction. But we'll do everything possible diplomatically to work towards that.
Is it alarming to see the Crimean Tatars right now coming out with a statement saying that they feel greatly oppressed? The Mejlis has been shut down. What kind of
Unfortunately, that's the case. Unfortunately, it's been reported internationally. This Turkish unofficial delegation which went there was composed of human rights professors and professors of international law, constitutional law. They also made, on the ground, very pertinent observations confirming this negative picture, unfortunately. The Crimean Tatars are going through a difficult time just when, in fact, perhaps they had hoped that with things changing in the positive direction in the Ukraine overall, they might finally come to a more democratic environment, more prosperous, more responsive government. They found themselves, in fact, in an opposite direction. So we understand their disappointment, and we will try to support them, of course, as Ukraine is trying to support them, and other international partners.
I see. Well, I do hope that your work continues with the Crimean Tatars and it's successful. Thank you for coming in today.
Thank you.
This has been Turkey's ambassador to Ukraine, Yönet Tezel. You've been watching Viewpoint on Ukraine Today.